Why don't we catch up with some Clemson football talk? Fall camp's about halfway through. We got Jason Priester on the line from All Clemson on SI. So I encourage you to head on over there and check out his work. And he's going to give us a small sample here. But Clemson fans and college football fans that keep up with the big programs, head on over there to All Clemson SI. Jason, how are we doing today?
I'm doing all right, Mark. How about yourself?
Well, I know you're a little under the weather, so we appreciate you taking one for the team here. So thank you so much for that, and take care of yourself.
Yes, sir, man. Yes, sir. It's been a long week.
Speaking of health, Justin Ross took a hit yesterday. It doesn't sound like you were able to yesterday, but Justin Ross did. And Clemson could sure use him. Regardless of the health of the rest of the crew, he's been the one proven guy that can take over a game when he's at full strength.
Yeah, I think getting Justin Ross back was crucial to this Clemson offense. I think most had assumed he was going to be cleared by the time fall camp started. That turned out to be the case, but then he had to miss the first week because he was in COVID protocol. Then he had to come back and do the acclimation process. So he wasn't in full pads until just the back end of fall camp. Finally took part in the final scrimmage yesterday and finally took his first hit in well over a year. And Dabo Swinney said after practice last night he don't think he had ever seen a player so happy to take a hit, because you never know until you take that first hit. But he made 2 or 3 big plays in that scrimmage yesterday, and that's big for this offense. His value to this team on that side of the ball just cannot be understated. Clemson needed him to be healthy this season, and fortunately, that's going to be the case. Especially with some injury issues to Joseph Nagata, which he's not been able to stay healthy. This is his 3rd year. He's been battling injuries off and on. Was very likely going to be a starter. Spent more time in the yellow jersey during fall camp than he did out of one. Now he's nursing a hamstring. The kid just cannot catch a break. He's been held out the back end, for precautionary reasons, hoping that thing doesn't stick around. But you never know with these hamstring injuries because sometimes they stick around forever. Sometimes they don't. And the look that this kid has, you sure don't want to press your luck.
Yeah, of course, Nagata and Frank Ladson came in that same class. Much has been expected of those two. And Nagata's not been able to shake the injury bug. Justin Ross, of course, with all that talent in the wide receiver room, he's the one guy that stands out because he's just a little bit better than everyone else. But on top of that, he's the one totally proven commodity, big games, big time production across the board, 1,000 yards his first season, caught another 66 the next season there in 2019. So it looks like Justin Ross is good to go for Georgia. And Joseph Nagata, we shall see. Again, unfortunate because even though hamstrings don't sound serious, they can linger for a long, long time. They're just difficult to deal with. All right, that offensive line sounds like there might be one more piece to put together to, 2 pieces, but one decision to make possibly that could affect 2 spots.
Yeah, the starting spot at center is still yet to be determined. I think most of us assumed it was going to be Hunter Rayburn. Turns out he's obviously not ready to lock that job down. The practices that I was at, it was Mason Trotter and Matt Bockhorst taking most of the reps with the ones at center. And Bockhorst is obviously your starting right guard. So if he's the guy that wins the job, then you got to slide somebody in at right guard. And the true freshman Marcus Tate is the guy that's been taking a lot of those reps. So you're looking at a potential true freshman starting on the offensive line, which is, never ideal. The ideal situation would have been Hunter Rayburn being ready. Just doesn't look like that's going to be the case. If I was a betting man, I would bet that it's going to be Bockhorst that wins the job. That's the most critical. That's the most critical part on the offensive line, and he's got to make sure that the group's in the right protections all the time, et cetera, et cetera. And then on top of that, sounds like they've been having snapping issues in camp too, So Dabo Swinney had said Tuesday night, he one thing he was still looking for was consistency, just snapping the ball. So I'm not sure what to make out of this yet. I think a lot of times Dabo says things with he has a specific reason for saying things to the media, to use his motivation. So it's hard to know what to make of all that. He even said that Trent Howard, a guy that doesn't even play center, was the most consistent snapping the ball. But this is a big battle, and that's one of the key matchups in this Georgia game is Clemson's offensive line, who faced their fair share of criticism last year. That's where this game, in my opinion, is going to be won or lost. If this offensive line is not up to the challenge, I mean, it could be a long day for this Clemson offense. That's a ferocious defensive front they're going to be facing in Charlotte.
Yeah, we assume the snap gets taken care of as football fans. We just watch the game, the snap, that's easy. But Michigan State and Nebraska come to mind as teams over the last couple of years that have had issues snapping the football. And it's almost like if a pitcher can't throw a strike, the rest of the team's useless. If you can't snap the ball, snap it low or high all the time. And I mean, in a desperate type situation where you're losing yardage, you're going to have to cover the football. It obviously kills the play. It's probably not quite that bad, but you don't want your quarterback fielding ground balls or one-handing the ball over his head. He's got to look at the defense. He's got to be concerned with so much that he's got to catch the football right in his frame to be effective most of the time. All right, got Jason Priester on the line from All Clemson SI. Check out his work right there. Jason joins us on a regular basis to cover Clemson, so we lean on him a whole bunch to take on one of the best programs in the country. Jason, of course, sometimes with all the talent that comes in, if a guy doesn't hit his stride right out of the gate at a program like Clemson, he can get passed up pretty quickly because the freshmen come in, they're studs at most positions, and Xavier Thomas is a guy that's played. I don't want to put it that way, but at the same time, every so often you'll see a guy that didn't reach his potential throughout his college career that came in as a big-time recruit, and then something clicks, they find something, and they're able to finish off their career in a good place.
Yeah, Xavier Thomas has just been a model of inconsistency since his sophomore season. A lot of that was out of his control. He during the spring last year, he got sick. He had COVID, then he got strep throat. And what a lot of us didn't know was he got up to over 290 pounds, and that's nowhere near being in football shape for a defensive end, not at this level anyways. And it kind of showed in his play on the field. He didn't play a ton of snaps last season. When he was in there, he sure didn't look like the Xavier Thomas that we saw him as a freshman. Even in 2019, when Clemson was playing more of a three-man front, which really doesn't suit his skill set, he looked like a much better football player than what we saw last year. And now coming into this fall camp, he's down to 265. He says he's in the best playing shape of his career. Brent Venables kind of echoed those sentiments last night after the final scrimmage of fall camp, saying they're getting the best version of Thomas they've gotten to date. And they're expecting a big season from Thomas. This is his money year. Pretty much. It's his fourth year. A lot of people didn't even think he'd be here 4 years. Figured he'd play 3 years and be a first, second round draft pick. Hadn't worked out that way for him. But if he wants to maximize his draft potential, he's got to have that big season this year. And it sounds like those guys inside the program think it's coming for him. And it's a long time coming for him, too. Like I said, we expected it from him in his sophomore season. It didn't happen. Expected it from him last season. It didn't happen. Now here we are. We're in his senior season, still waiting for it, and it's now or never for him.
Talking Clemson football here at the Voice of College Football. Please like the video, share the videos out on social media, because if you enjoy the content, others will as well. Jason Priester's here to break it down. Doesn't want to break up the team or anything. Break down the Clemson fall camp. They're about halfway through at this point. The other thing I'll hit you up with, Jason, would be the preseason polls. The AP released a few days ago. The coaches poll first. I did several videos just looking at poll history in the last 2 decades, considering wherever that particular team was ranked preseason. For Clemson, this has been a program that you can go back to the late 70s when they really emerged under Danny Ford. And, most of those preseason rankings, they would either be unranked, but most of the time 15 to 20 range. And that's about where they would land. And there were a lot of seasons like that. Of course, there were ups and downs, but that was pretty standard. Now, even into the 2000s, up until Dabo kicking things into gear, of course, he had the 6-win season to get things started. Then once they emerged and broke through for that national championship game in 2015 as a non-top 10 preseason team, this is pretty much run of the mill now. 2016, let's see, through 21, you're talking 6 consecutive top 5 AP and coaches poll rankings preseason, and then they land in the same spot, somewhere in that top 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think this is the 57th consecutive week they've been ranked in the top 5 of the AP. I think that's the second longest streak in the history of the poll, behind Alabama. I can't remember what theirs was. I tried to look it up right fast, but I couldn't find it. But as far as active top 5 streaks, Alabama's second to Clemson with 18. It's kind of become the norm here of late, and a lot of these. I'm pushing 50 years old. I've been a Clemson fan all my life, and a lot of these younger fans, they don't remember those days, what it was like, to be sitting in those stands and take one gut punch after the other, or they don't remember the, 9-4 seasons or 8-4 seasons or whatever it was, or the 7-5, 6-5 seasons, and being happy with just beating South Carolina at the end of the season. And sometimes even that wasn't a given. This is kind of uncharted territories for this Clemson program, something that, quite honestly, I never thought that I would even live to see. I never expected Clemson to have this kind of success in football. I had just resigned myself to the fact that the program is what it was, and I was just going to have to live with those gut punches. I'll never forget sitting in the stands in 2015 when Wayne Gallman ran that touchdown in late to put the game away against Florida State. And, it just felt like 30 years of frustration and disappointment just lifts off your shoulders. And I remember my daughter looking at me as she said, "Daddy, are you fixing to cry?" I mean, and to me, that was the year they lost the national championship. I'd have been fine if they never even went back to the playoff again. I mean, that's just how much I had resigned myself to the fact that this program was never going to be where it is right now. It's really hard to believe how much success they've had under Dabo Swinney, And I'm a guy that did not believe in his hiring when he was first hired. I did not like the hire. I thought there were better options. And, I was obviously wrong. Not the first time. Won't be the last time. But it's just amazing what he's been able to do. And I'm still amazed sometimes when I drive through campus at how much it's changed, and sometimes how much it changes just from one season to the next, because there's stuff always getting built, new buildings always going up, and it's all due to, most of it's all due to this success they're having on the football field. It's just really something that's hard to put into words.
And the success is supposed to continue. There's really no reason to not think that it won't, as owner of the ACC and a college football playoff team. But as we know, they want more. They want to get back to the very, very top last reached in 2018. So they're going to clean up some of these issues, or hope that they do, and of course face those Georgia Bulldogs in week 1. Jason, appreciate you stopping by again. It's Jason Priester, All Clemson SI. So it's allclemson.com, right there with all the Clemson football coverage from fall camp. Appreciate it, Jason.
Anytime, Mark. Appreciate you having me on.